Hello out there in ADHD land. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I am a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist. I am also the parent of two ADHD kids, and I married into an ADHD family. And I'm starting to have some questions about some of the people in my own family. So, ADHD is a tricky one, and ADHD parents have to do a lot of things. And I had some things I've already talked about, but I wanted to really emphasize it because it's, the title of this thing is sort of tongue in cheek, the colonel or the helicopter parent. Okay. I mean, the deal is, though, most people think of colonel, they think of military discipline, lots of force, fear, and punishment. And most people think of helicopter parents as people who don't want the real world to intrude at all on their child's life. So somewhere between the two is where we've got to land. The things you've got to remember with an ADHD kid is that they've got a different brain. It's a neurologic condition. They have a different brain than a neurotypical child. And unfortunately, the world is designed for neurotypical people. Schools are designed for neurotypical people. Uh, the everything they deal with, jobs are designed for neurotypical people. College is designed for neurotypical people. So you have to be an expert on adapting and adjusting to ADHD. And there's another tricky line you have to, okay, yes, in the sense that you need some special compensatory training, and you also need some compensatory things that the school needs to do for you. Okay, but it's not really a deficit in the sense that they can't do anything. Matter of fact, they're very bright people usually. They're very creative people usually. They just have this troubles keeping focused with their attention, mostly because their brain is wired so that they pay attention to everything. They're the people you want on sentry duty if you're in the military, because they'll be every little noise and cricket and whatnot, it will register. Problem with the way things are in both our schools and most of our vocations is that you have to be able to focus and stay concentrated, and that's considered a definite value that you just have a harder time functioning if you can't do that. I mean, look at like math in school. Now, math should be one of the more stimulating sorts of subjects that you can teach. I mean, how about figuring out how to angle your roof, and how about calculating how fast the train is going to go, and all those things. But it is taught so poorly. It is taught in such a boring manner that, I don't know how many teenagers I've had in my office saying, what do I need this stuff for? I'm never going to use this. I'm going to be a carpenter when I get, or I'm going to be a mechanic. And then I say, well, watch this old house and see how Bob Silva, does his projects. He's the carpenter. He uses more math than most physicists do. He's just planning, like I said, like the angle of a roof and that sort of thing. He plans that. And he does it. He just uses a lot of math. I was surprised the first time I noticed that. But the deal with parenting an ADHD kid, and it starts with, like most things, it starts with you. Okay? You have to be a little bit organized yourself. Your household has to have routines. This is the time we eat breakfast. This is the time we eat dinner. This is what our routine is. Um, it's got to be a routine. It's got to be something that you do so often you don't have to even think about it. It's like brushing your teeth. Most of us, it's not even, we don't think about it. We just do it. And that's the way it should be for a lot of the routine things. And your kid is going to have a little trouble picking up on that. So you have to be able to uh, do some of the compensatory things that will help them get their, say, morning. Usually that's the one people complain about the most, their morning routine under control. So for that kind of thing, you have to know that you need to externalize the executive functions, and those are the ones that help you get a new routine before it's become a habit. And so, like, that's why I recommend the Easy Daisy stuff that uh, is used for kids, and it's real helpful for ADHD kids. It's one of these that's got the routines you take for getting ready for bed, say, and for every instruction, there's I did this, a way to indicate that you've done it. That way you keep track of it, and you won't have to use your prefrontal cortex, which is where your working memory is. When working memory is just your memory for things that aren't deep memories yet. Okay, so you've got to do that. You've got to have a routine, and you have to have ways of enforcing the routines. The Easy Daisy model is an easy one. It's and most younger kids will love it. Most teenagers, well, they don't like anything anyway, so they may not like it. But if you can get them to do it and it helps, that's what you've got to teach. So you have to be able to analyze routines. You have to be able to develop routines for your household. And you have to also, and this may be the hardest one for some people, you have to be able to generate calm in your own self. You've got to, you go into a situation where your ADHDer has lost control and is having a temper tantrum or is in a fight with his sister or her sister, whichever. It doesn't do a good, it's not good to add somebody who's angry already, so you have to be calm, and it may be to the point where only one of you is good in those kind of situations, so the other one has to back off, and that probably is not going to be popular, but it's really helpful. No adding to the fire with being angry yourself and out of control. So you have to be calm, you have to be focused, and you have to generate that calm. Okay. And you have to understand that with ADHD parents, you're teaching all the time. Okay. Resilience comes from accepting that I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm going to solve the problem. And if I have to repeat it a bunch of times before I get it right, so be it. Okay. And you have to teach that. And it doesn't come easily. Okay. You have to be able to um, understand ADHD enough so that you understand why they're having that particular problem. Okay. And there's I don't know if you've ever heard of a book called Atomic Habits, but it's basically about establishing habits. But he's got a quote here that I just love. It's the greatest threat to success is not failure, but boredom. Okay. And ADHDers are the kings of boredom. If it bores them, they're gone. Their attention is flying out the window, and they're, fighting robots on Mars or something instead of paying attention to what the teacher is saying and that sort of stuff. The thing you have to do, though, is you have to figure out the way you think about things determines the emotion you're going to have. And so the way you think about, say, a given class in school, if you're always going, "Oh man, this is gonna these are there, yeah, she can't," and etc. But if you say, "Okay, I don't much like this the way this teacher presents things, but this is an important course. I can see that it would have a lot of utility in my life, like math, say. I would have a lot of utility in my life, a lot of value in my life. So I've got to figure out a way to get through it. So I'm going to try to take it to the real world and see what would I use this particular calculation for? What are some of the things that I could use it for if I owned a business or I was making pizzas or whatever you're doing? There are things you will do and need to do that involve mathematics. If it's only counting the number of pepperoni slices you put on. But you have to be able to talk yourself into that. This is not, playing mind games with yourself particularly. This is just the way all people who are facing something that's difficult for them have to react. If you just go, bang, I'm not doing this, then, well, you're not going to do a lot of things. And that's going to cost you. It may wait until you're in your 20s before it costs you, but it will eventually cost you. So you have to be able to find the value in something, find a reason to do it, find whatever it takes for you. And it won't probably be, a reward, 3 weeks down the line from your parents, the hot fudge sundae 3 weeks from now has almost no stimulus value for an ADHD kid. They don't think that far ahead. Okay, so they have to learn to look at a situation and say, okay, I don't like this, but I'm smart and I can handle this. I just have to figure out how to make it, change it, fix it so that my unique brain will be able to stay focused and do the job. There's a lot of words, but that's basically what you're having to do. See, if you look at it as every situation has a solution and a way to make it more interesting and important. Okay, those two things, interest and importance. Because as we know, as we know, boredom kills, and it especially kills ADHDers. So, but they have to figure out ways of making it seem important and interesting to them. Okay, and trust me, there's almost no subject in the world that you can't do that for. Um, I've been in school a long time. I've had a lot of education, and I've had to use this technique a number of times myself to just force myself to go back and try to start reading this god awful, boring chapter and get something out of it. And of course, that's a whole different thing. One of the ways to get through school is to go through your reading, your lecture notes, whatever you've got, and find the questions that are in there. What's a question they can make out of this page? What's a question they can make out of this chapter? And just do that through the whole thing. As much, I guess it's simpler. Yeah, I'd say it's simpler than just taking notes and then, without even really thinking. If you think, how could you ask a question about this? We're in a multiple choice world nowadays. So if you jump the gun on that is helpful. And that will work with a lot of people. Like in the military, I'm retired Air Force. When you have these career development kinds of courses, which aren't known for being all that interesting, the way we would study would a group of us would get together and say, okay, page 224. Anybody got any questions out of this? Look at that. Okay, and go through the whole chapter the night before the test and get all the questions we need. You can do that yourself as well. And for younger folks, I would highly recommend doing it yourself. When you get a little older and you get people who can contribute, it can't be a bunch of knuckleheads who just want to make jokes and play video games. It's got to be some folks who are going to um, contribute, can be serious about it, and so on. So that's another thing, actually. That sort of just popped into my head actually, but it works. And the big thing you have to remember with an ADHD kid, punishment does not work. Okay? You're dealing with a neurologic condition that is, the worst parts of it are depleted dopamine. And dopamine's one of those things that kind of calms you down and makes you think the world is all happy and that sort of thing. And it helps you concentrate. The problems, I'm like being frustrated and that depletes your dopamine. Being happy, petting your puppy, that makes you increase dopamine. Okay, and so it's not a behavior problem. It's a neurologic condition. So if you punish, that further depletes dopamine, and that means you're going to have a big, even stronger sort of reaction, which most of the time is not what you want, right? So you have to figure out how you're going to handle this. And the simplest way is to say everything they do that's a mistake or an error or doesn't work out well, that's an opportunity to learn something, opportunity to teach them something. There's a reason they're doing this. They're having more troubles than the other kids who are, say, in their grade or that sort of thing. That there's a reason they have troubles and more troubles than the others. And there'll be some things they're going to do awfully well. I mean, that's one of the things you have to keep remembering, and you have to keep finding those things. You have to find opportunities to encourage, praise, and that sort of thing. If you don't, it's not happy making. Okay, you want your child to have a good sense of self, even with ADHD, and that is possible. Okay, but you have to focus on their strengths, not your preferences. And that's, many of us have that problem. I said my kids were all going to go to college and they were all going to graduate and it was going to be easy peasy. Well, then my daughter, flunked out of college, having entirely too much fun. And then she went into the working world and realized that working for a little above minimum wage was not the life she wanted. And now, she went back to school. She got her bachelor's degree, and I told her, I don't care what you get it in, get it in basket weaving, just get a BA. And then when you decide what you want, you can get a master's degree. And she did exactly that. Her undergraduate degree's in history, which she always has loved, But, the opportunities to seek employment in that area are not the greatest. So then she had another job, and then she went back to school and got an MBA. And then she went back again and got something project management, something or other certification, which I guess is a big deal. And now she's making a pretty good living. And wasn't what I thought was going to happen, but that's what happened. She had enough belief in herself that even when she screwed up, she eventually straightened it out. So it's not necessarily going to be an easy ride. I have have my middle child, and he just floated through, da 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 da, got everything done, da 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 da. Played 4 years of college soccer as a goalie, which is a terrible thing to do to your parents, right? Because every time the other team scores, they look at you in the stands and, well, anyway, that, but he just had a whole different path, a whole different organization style. And then my youngest, well, we weren't sure what was going to happen. I mean, now he's a certified gemologist and jewelry designer and da 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 da. And, that's not, that wasn't my plan. We just, jewelry. Is that a real job? I don't know. But he wasn't going to make it in a 9 to 5, sit at a desk all day kind of world. And, like many ADHDers, something creative, I mean, he used to be like MacGyver, give him a couple of paper clips and he'll make you a prancing horse or something out of it. And so you have to encourage those kind of things. You have to encourage them. You have to encourage their good decisions. You have to encourage their impression of themselves. They can't think of themselves as disabled. They can't think of, well, they can if they want, but it's not the best way to be a successful ADHDer. You're not going to be Michael Phelps or, any of those famous folks with ADHD without some drive, without some ambition. And that mostly comes from feeling pretty good about yourself. So you have to try to encourage them at all times. And this doesn't come naturally to a lot of us, A lot of us didn't grow up with a lot of praise. If we were doing good, people kept quiet. When we screwed up, we heard about it. And that's that's the old school. Now, the other thing you've got to watch out for is that you don't want to make it too easy. Okay? You can't be a helicopter parent and keep your kid from having any problems at all in life or ever having to deal with them, or thinking that a participation trophy is the same thing as winning. That's probably not going to be a good life lesson. And I don't mean win at all costs, but I do mean that there's a difference, sometimes, because you need to have a drive is more important than talent. Drive is more important than intelligence. Drive is more important than, I started to say, than having a rich daddy, but I'm not sure about that one. So, but you have to, they have to have the fire for something, and that's probably one of the fun things about is you don't just lay out this is the way all the people in our family do. You're going to do something unique and something different, and I hope it works out well for you. But you want to encourage that. You want to encourage their uniqueness. You want to encourage their ability to learn from mistakes. And it's a mistake. It's not a failure until you quit trying. Okay. Ooh, I should write that one down. But that's the truth. As long as you keep going after it, you'll eventually figure it out, and your ADHD will figure it out too. ADHD is not a mental retardation, and it's not a behavior issue, and it's not that you're crazy. It's that your brain works different than the neurotypical brain in this particular society. There are probably some societies out there where an ADHD brain is the norm. I don't know that for a fact, but probably is an easier adjustment for their children. So anyway, that's a lot of stuff. And I hope you might want to listen to this one a couple of times to get it all. But okay, this has been Dr. G's ADHD Chat. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras. I'm a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist. That means I'm a brain doc. And my website is terrygingrassphd.com. And my probably my only offer right now is I'm offering coaching for ADHDers. And there's a sign up if you want to do what they're calling a discovery call, which is just just a chance to meet up and decide if we can handle each other, if we like each other's style and that sort of thing. So I will catch you next time. This show is available. I have it as a podcast, and I have it on YouTube and Facebook. So fire away. Okay. And I try to answer questions when I get them, and I appreciate them. And any suggestions that you might have, please let me know. Okay. We will catch you later.